I want to bring this meeting to order. The Utah Board of Water Resources Board meeting, June 26, 2025. I am Mike Davis, the chair of the board, representing the Provo drainage area. We have online board members Van Horn and Ibsen. Do you want to introduce yourselves, please?
Sure, I'm Dana Van Horn. I represent the Upper Colorado River District.
And I'm Blaine Epson. I represent the Sevier River District.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Juliet Tenner representing Salt Lake and Tooele.
Spencer Jones representing the Lower Colorado River.
Brian Steed representing Great Salt Lake.
Thank you very much. Oh, yes, and we want to excuse William Merkley and Tim Hawks, who are not with us today. We do have a quorum to conduct business. First item of business will be... Oh, yes, I am so sorry. I'm skipping myself. I'm skipping lines here. Director Hassenjager, will you please introduce staff?
Yes, Director Hassenjager with Water Resources, and with us today we have Joel Williams, Shalane DiBernardi, Tom Cox, Bradley Caldwell, Jessica Chen, Eric Dixon, our AG's office, Sarah Schechter. Online joining us is Candace Schaible and Marisa Egbert. Shawnee White is doing our minutes. Thank you, Shawnee. And then our amazing AV team that makes this all possible, Seth Majors and Carmen McDonald's, are behind the curtain.
Thank you very much. First item of business will be approval of minutes. Are there any corrections or edits that we need with the minutes? If not, I would entertain a motion.
Move that we approve the minutes.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? It is unanimous. Okay, the first project issue will be on our feasibility reports, RE 494. Tom Cox is our project manager. This is for Washington County Water Conservancy District. And we have with us, I know we've got Zach Renstrom. Who else do we have from the district? Glad to have you. Great, thank
and just
you.
for our board members online, that's Jacob Sullivan with Washington County Water Conservancy District, Zach Renstrom with Washington County Water Conservancy District, and Jonathan Ward from Science Public Finance. Sorry.
Okay, do we want to have them come up to the table? Yes, if you'd come up to the table and have a seat, please. I can't aim that far, so gotta get you a little closer. Okay, Tom.
So, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, let me get closer to my mic. The Washington County Water Conservancy District was organized in 1962 and is charged with conserving, developing, and managing and stabilizing water supplies in Washington County. The applicant wholesales water primarily to all the water entities in the county. They do have a few retail supplier or recipients that they provide water to. Water is primarily obtained from the Virgin River and other surface and groundwater sources. Approximately 52,000 acre-feet of water was delivered last year under a regional water service agreement between the applicant and the cities in the county. And their system currently includes reservoirs, pipelines, wells, water storage tanks, treatment plants, and hydropower units. The applicant has obtained funding from the board on several previous occasions for dam repair and construction and pipelines and other system improvements. Currently, they have two projects that are still being paid off. The one would be the Sand Hollow Reservoir. That's a big one. and it's scheduled to be paid off in 2023. In 2023, the state legislature modified the code regarding the state's water infrastructure restricted account, which WIRA, to fund projects that benefit the Colorado River drainage. So as far as the catch up the slides. As far as the existing conditions in the county, Washington County continues to be one of the fastest growing areas in the state, and with that growth comes the increased demand for water. The applicant has completed a 20-year plan to develop water sources to satisfy that need. The plan includes several options to meet the projected demands: water conservation, local supply development, groundwater optimization, agricultural water conversion, and utilizing reuse water. So currently, good quality untreated water is currently being used for ag irrigation and secondary irrigation also. Some cities in the applicant service area have secondary irrigation systems that vary in coverage, with some only providing irrigation water to large open areas like parks, schools, that sort of thing. And others serve those areas as well as residential outdoor use. Some cities have systems involved or installed that are yet to been able to tie into a water source. Wastewater is collected and treated by two entities in the county. One is St. George City, and the other is Ash Creek Special Service District. The St. George Regional Plant collects water from the cities on the west side of the county, the Ash Creek on the cities on the east side. Some of the water from both of those treatment facilities are used in secondary irrigation. On the west side, that water is treated a little bit further from the regional plant and put into the irrigation system. On the east side, the Ash Creek facility, only a small number of acres are irrigated with the secondary or the water from that system. It is estimated that by 2042, approximately 24,000 acre feet of treated type 1 reuse water would be generated annually that could be utilized for agricultural and secondary irrigation. Enhanced treatment could treat that water further for drinking water to drinking water standards. So the district is proposing a very large project. It will be multi-phased to use reuse water for those irrigation and possibly culinary uses. The system includes over 60 miles of pipeline, 3 reservoirs and other storage facilities, new and underground water reclamation facilities, and advanced water purification facilities to treat reuse water for irrigation and eventually for drinking water purposes. So if you look at the map, they're marked on, the major facilities are marked, ranging from number 1 on the top is the Chief Torker Dam, and number 2 is a Confluence Park Water Reclamation Facility. 3 would be the location of the Advanced Water Purification Facility. 4, proposed Warner Valley Dam. 5 is the St. George Water Reclamation Facility, which would have upgrades and increased capacity, and number 6 is a Graveyard Wash Dam. So the project is our report has been broken down into two phases. Phase 1 generally includes the infrastructure needed to provide reuse water for irrigation for agriculture and secondary use throughout the service area. This would free up better quality water for drinking water use through exchanges. On the map, I have not included the pipelines just for simplicity and clarity, but there are proposed pipelines connecting each of those facilities. And it's anticipated that construction on these projects in phase 1 would be completed first and would be completed by about 2030. Phase 2 will include the infrastructure needed for additional storage and advanced water purification system to treat the water to drinking water standards. Phase 2 includes a 21 million gallon per day advanced water purification facility, the Warner Valley Dam and reservoir, and the pipelines to connect the respective facilities to the system. These facilities in phase 1 and phase 2 will be constructed as demand increases. That's some of the major benefits of the project is the project will deliver an additional 24,000 acre feet of water to be used for agriculture and secondary irrigation. And through exchanges, the higher quality water sources can be utilized for drinking water needs in the future. So the project cost is estimated to be $1,360,000,000. The phase 1 of the project, the project cost of that is $413 million. And since the funding from the board will most likely go towards that phase 1 project, part of the project, we will focus on that in the cost sharing and repayment schedule. So this is the cost sharing and repayment of phase 1. It's proposed that Water Resources provide $195 million for the project. The applicant has also lined up grant money through the ARPA funds and from the Bureau of Reclamation. The applicant is committed to provide quite a bit of the funds to the project. And the hole in the funding will be filled through other loans, including the WIFIA source opportunity through the federal government and other public market loans. So staff recommends the board authorize 47.2% of phase 1 project costs up to $195 million, and the bonded indebtedness be returned at 1% interest over 30 years with annual payments of approximately $7,844,000, and that includes reserves. So just maybe a comment on how we came up with the funding terms on that. According to the board's affordability guideline, residents in the Washington County area could pay up to $60.25 monthly for water. That includes culinary water, irrigation water, property tax that's tied to the water, increased operation and maintenance costs of the proposed system, and estimated payments for the other loans that's shown in the cost sharing, as well as the cost of the proposed Border Water Resources loan. So basing those costs, dividing them up over the residents in the county, the cost of water per month is approximately $79.66. And since this is higher than the board's affordability guideline, we feel that the district is eligible for a lower interest rate and a extended repayment period. As far as water rights goes, the county the district owns numerous water rights, including the water right for the reuse water or limited reuse water from the Ash Creek Special Service District facility. St. George City has water right for the amount of the reuse water that's used currently from that system. And the district, before funds are committed for the project, will need to work out the issues, all the permits for the extended water use for the reuse water. And Mr. Chairman, members of the board, that's staff's report.
Thank you, Tom. Are there questions or discussions to be had with the board on this issue?
Chairman, I just had a question. The rate reflected in the report, is that going to be the increased amount of the rate, or is that taken into account something else, the $70?
The numbers in the report just indicate if this funding is approved, what the average cost per connection per month would be. That's really not tied to the existing water rate of the district. So they would have to determine to what extent they would need to raise their rates to cover those costs.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, this is Blaine. I would like to hear from the applicant.
Yeah, we'll do that as soon as we get any questions answered from the board. If there are no further questions, we can continue. I do have one question, Tom. Are the terms and the analysis of the economic feasibility and financial feasibility, are they in line with other projects we normally address as far as rates and term of loan and so forth?
Typically from the Conservation and Development Fund, which the wire funds were deposited into our C&D fund. Yeah, so our target interest rate for M&I projects right now is about 3.3% interest over 25 to 30 years. But because of their cost of water exceeds the affordability guideline, we lowered that interest rate and put the normal maximum years for the repayment term. So yes, it is in line with other projects we've done.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions from the board?
I do have one question. In
Yes.
terms of the cost of water per connection, does that include tiered rates? How do we factor in tiered rates on that?
That would be up to the district on how they collect those revenues to cover
We'll
costs.
let's get the applicant up here then. Any other board questions? If not, we ask the applicant to first address Board Member Steed's concern, and then we have Board Member Ibsen online that may have some questions. Thank you.
Okay. So, Chairman, we do have a small presentation that, if it would be appropriate, we'd like to give you, and then we can answer the
That would be
questions.
great.
Okay.
Yes, we'd love to
Okay.
have that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, I'd just like to recognize the staff. They have been amazing to work with. We've had a lot of back and forth, a lot of good questions. And so, Director, you got great staff here, and so thank you for them. They really have been wonderful to talk to. So in Washington County, what we're doing down there, we feel is very unique. And part of it is just out of sheer necessity. Of course, being one of the fastest growing, we are also located in one of the driest parts of the state. Also, it's very typical in the Mojave Desert, which we're kind of located in, that one year we'll have excess and the next year we'll have dry. And so in my short career, there's been several records. In fact, this last year, during the winter days, was the driest record ever recorded in St. George. And so we have records that go back to 1890, and this winter we had the least amount of rainfall. And so it's been tough, but fortunately a few years ago we had one of the best snow years ever, and we were able to store all that water in our reservoirs, and it really shows the importance of large water infrastructure projects to allow us to have that variability. So this is our 20-year plan. Of course, large infrastructure projects are part of it. It's going to take a lot. Our community has embraced this 20-year plan, and now we just got to figure out how to pay for it, and that's why we're here today. One thing I wanted to point out on this is how important conservation is in our county. So moving forward, we're expecting 25% of our future water use to come from conservation. So this is water we're currently using, but we're going to do a better job and be better stewards of that water so we can reallocate that water moving forward. One of the things we like to brag about that's going on down there is that we are leading the state in water conservation. Some of the things that we're doing down there are very unique. Right now, the homes that are being built are some of the most water efficient homes in the United States. We're very proud of that. Our grass rebate, and that's how we're kind of doing some of that conservation. We're leading per capita in the state, and it's been very good. And one thing that's nice about like the grass rebate, that's been a great partnership where the legislature came, they allocated some funds from that, put some guidance in place, and we've been able to work with that to really move it forward and get a lot done. Kind of getting to, are you a director here, Dr. Steed, or a commissioner, or board member? You got a lot of titles, so, okay. Dr. Steed, I'll stick with that one. How's that? You asked about the tiered rates, and so we do have tiered rates, but our tiered rates are by far some of the most aggressive. And so what we have right now in Washington County for our newer connections, that we give them a chunk of water for each particular month. And so this kind of shows the scenario. So in January, they get 8,000 gallons of water. But once they hit that 8,000 gallon threshold, they instantly have a $10 surcharge. And so our tiers are the most aggressive in the state of Utah substantially, where they can have a very low water bill, but then within a little bit, they can really go over it. And so it's tiered. It's interesting because when this first came out, no one had ever seen a tiered surcharge like this going forward. And so there was a lot of apprehensiveness from the cities about this. So when we rolled it out, we actually had to go and pay the people that do the billing software like extra money to come and do extra programming to make this work. And it's actually worked phenomenal. So the homes that are being built today, if they follow our ordinances, they have no problem. And actually they have a very low water bill. But if they don't follow the landscape ordinances, then they quickly fall into this excess surcharge and it kicks in. And so it has been interesting to see that going on and just making sure that we're pricing where it should be. This is our purification system where we take water out of the Virgin River, we stick it into Sand Hollow or Quail, we treat it, and it goes to our community, and then it goes to these reclamation facilities. In the last 20 years, we have been doing a little bit of reuse where we go and we put a little bit on golf courses and some parks and stuff like that. There's also an obligation that we have to some tribal water that we have to supply, but the majority of it was actually leaving the state of Utah. Our lowest water reclamation facility is right on the border, and so when it leaves that, it really does leave the state. And so now we're going to build infrastructure to capture more of that. So one of the things is on our request is we need to construct several reservoirs, and that's part of it. But eventually, we're going to have to go to this advanced water purification system. It's proven technology. It's been used all over the Western United States, all over the world, and it's usually not done at this small scale because they're expensive. But like I said, necessity has brought out the need for something like that. This is kind of the pipelines that we're talking about. So what's nice is we're using existing infrastructure. So the black line on there, that's existing infrastructure that we will continue to use or repurpose. But all the yellow in there is new pipes that we have to build. We have several new reservoirs that we're going to have to build, and even our wastewater systems we're going to have to upgrade, and we plan to do those. So this is our 20-year plan. Each different color bar represents where water is going to come from. The line that you see there is representing growth or economic development. And so the two biggest is conservation, kind of the orange line. It's a little different on the screens, but the purple is reuse. And that's where really we're going to get a lot of it for our next 20 years. The thing with the purple line is you see it coming on 2030, but to make that happen, we need to actually start putting pipes in the ground today. So these projects will sometime take I know, Spencer Jones, you're a builder, you understand these big projects. Sometimes it takes years. One of the things that we're actually working with is the amount of pipes we need to install and reaching out to companies that make pipes. They don't even know if they'll be able to get us the pipes in time to put in the ground. But that's part of the analysis that we're going through right now to make sure we make that goal. So with that, we understand this is very complex, and so we went out and sought the leading, how can I brag you up here, Jonathan? Leading financial mind in the state of Utah to help us through this process, because we want to make sure what we're doing is smart for the taxpayers, reasonably sound, and also complies. And so now I'm going to turn it over to Zions National Bank and Jonathan Ward.
Thanks, Zach, and there's no reason to try to talk us up. That's fine. Mr. Chair, board members, and director, this is a unique project, as Zach indicated. As such, the request for funding, which is why we're here, is also very unique and something that we think helps stretch the dollar, because the project cost is very expensive. If we're talking $1.36 billion over a multi-phased approach to be able to reuse and conserve water in this way, funding mechanism needs to be equally unique. And so we think the legislative intent for some of the things that have taken place over the last 2 years have helped provide the framework for this type of funding mechanism. Back in 2023, the legislature passed Senate Bill 277, which authorized funds to be used for this type of a project, reuse projects, and very specifically, we think Washington County. Access to the funds that were pulled from C&D and pulled from WIRA into C&D is very limited based on the conservation measures that are put in place. And to date, Washington County is, we think, the only entity that has instituted those types of conservation measures. And the statute's very, very particular about those requirements for, we think, reasons that would enable the dollars that have been allocated by the legislature to be reused. You know, we're talking reuse project, and we're talking reuse funding for this project. So we thought it was appropriate. We needed to approach the Water Resources Board, which is a revolving loan fund, to talk about a revolving loan structure. We know the legislature's allocated $195 million for these types of projects and put some very narrow guide rails and tight guide rails on the funding for the projects. Washington County Water Conservancy District meets those requirements. We think the legislative intent to deposit money that's drawn back into WIRA enables the district to be able to reuse that money, meaning once it's drawn down and it's spent on projects, there will be other resources coming into the district to help repay that obligation. And in some cases it might be a lot, in some cases it might be a little, certainly sufficient to repay the minimum required principal and interest payments. But in the event there's excess money paid in the form of growth fees, impact fees, or otherwise, and the district can prepay some funds, the hope is, and the request is, and we think the legislative intent is, that that money could be reused by the district to further the expansion of the project for subsequent phases of the project. We've indicated on the slide that we think that sort of mechanism is embedded in the statute, albeit maybe not really clear and not exactly spelled out the way we'd like, because it doesn't sound like that there's any authorization to withdraw funds from WIRA and expend from WIRA, only out of the C&D fund. So that's something that would potentially come into play and we'd have to work through. But I think the intent is, and from the compendium of budget issues back in 2023, it suggested this $50 million or so per year would be allocated. We're in the last year, starting July 1 of that disbursement, and so we think there's funds available to get this going. The project at 1.36 billion is a heavy lift. 195 million helps dramatically in that effort. We've talked through the request to make this a revolving loan structure. There is already a revolving concept with the funds that the board manages. The request here is just to limit who gets access to those revolving funds to Washington County Water Conservancy District, because at the current moment we're the only ones that have implemented the strict conservation measures to do so. We're also asking, as opposed to the 1% rate that staff recommended, a little lower rate to try to stretch these dollars a little further. At a 0.5% interest rate with an extended term of 50 years rather than a repayment term of 30 years, we sort of match the concept or the thought process around the repayment timing for the Lake Powell pipeline, and that's where we came up with a 50-year term to mirror what the repayment timeline would have been under the Lake Powell pipeline concept. We recognize that statutorily, currently as statute's written, 40 years is the term, max term allowed under the Local Government Bonding Act. We do think there are ways to still make the 50 years work without legislative changes, but we could also approach the legislature to try to authorize that for these types of projects. Maybe not for everything universally, but for projects in the WIRA, perhaps that's another solution. There's also other bond structuring mechanisms where we could solve that problem, either through 50-year amortizations and a balloon payment, or laddering the issuance over time, so you had multiple series of bonds that are repaid in such a way that it mirrors or mimics that 50-year repayment term. We'd also request that the funding be done on a taxable basis. Under federal tax law rules, any interest earnings that are received in this over and above a specified rate, usually the borrowing rate or close to it, have to be sent back to the federal government. When we do taxable obligations, it helps enable, we think, the revolving nature of the structure, but also helps us keep interest earnings here in the state of Utah rather than, and makes those available for this project, as opposed to sending them back to Washington, D.C. and letting the IRS have them. So those are some things, some special requests that we're asking, very unique requests, we understand, because it's a unique project. But we'd love to have a discussion with the board about, is it possible? Could this be something that works out? We'd love to work with staff and all those necessary to help come together with a solution that really does stretch the dollars and helps fund a really necessary and unique project.
Any other comments from the applicant at this point? Questions and comments from the board for the applicant, please. Tenor.
Great, thank you. Thanks for the excellent presentation and providing the information, and then also thanks to Tom and the rest of the team for being so great about trying to help us to wrap our minds around this project. I have many questions, but I think the one that I would like to just get a sense for is the grants that are coming into this project. My understanding is that there's ARPA monies, and then there's also Bureau of Reclamation monies that are coming in. How confident are you, particularly in the Bureau of Reclamation monies, are we confident that we will have those in hand? I know I've been working with some other entities where, you know, we thought we had grant, then we weren't sure if we had grant. We're not in the place where we don't have grant, but we're still in uncertainty phase. So just maybe we could get a little bit of your sense of how that's working.
Yes, so some of that money, it was multiple different awards.
Okay.
And so some of that money we have received, we're actually utilizing right now and under construction. Some of them have been awarded. We're working on the final contracts on that. And so it's a little bit all over. The money that we listed here, we feel fairly certain that we will receive that. It's certain funds that even right now Congress isn't taking back. With that said, we still have very aggressive plans to go after additional federal grants. There's some big grants out there for reuse projects located in the lower basin of the Colorado River, which geographically we happen to land into. The former administration put the money there. This administration has not, well, just, it's been a little different. But even with that said, Congress has not pulled or even proposed to take those funds back. And so after the big, beautiful bill goes through, the Bureau of Reclamation says that they will most likely start looking at those funds again to see if they can't send out grants. And those could be significant and to the tune of like $100 million.
Okay, thank you. But so to be clear, those aren't
listed here.
Yeah, listed
Only
here,
the
okay.
ones that we feel certain.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Blaine, Board Member Ibsen online.
Yes, I've got a couple questions. Obviously, I think questions on the revolving loan and structure and all that, lots of those questions, but I don't want to get into that. I have two questions basically. I'm curious about the relationship between the Washington County Water Conservancy District, St. George City, and Ash Creek Special Service District on the water reuse project. How are those three different entities tied in together? How will they be tied in together for funding, bonding purposes is my first question.
Yes, great question. So right now they are part of the team, our reuse team that we're working with. And so whenever we talk about reuse, but essentially what's going to happen is that the sewer company or the reclamation, they will treat the water to a type 1 level treatment with their cost. And then once it comes out of that, the district will be responsible to pump it, move it, and transfer it all around. And so that's what we're working on right now. Those contracts are not finalized, but that is what we're kind of working to. Also, in regards to the wet water itself, we have signed agreements with the majority of the cities, so we're only 2 left, about who owns the water. Right now, the district itself owns 60% of the water. We still need to file the water right application, but essentially it follows through. And all our cities have signed up for that too, except for the 2 that we're just finalizing some final language on it. I hope that answers your question.
It does partially.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. As my second question just kind of deals with the time frame for permitting. I mean, obviously permitting pipelines, permitting reservoirs in particular oftentimes takes some time. Where are you at, and what do you anticipate your time frame will be for permitting your reservoirs and or pipelines?
So some of this project is actually under construction right now. And so we are also starting the NEPA process on our big pipeline, which will be kind of the backbone of the process. So we are working with the Bureau of Reclamation right now. We're actually doing the cultural surveys and the biological surveys. And so we're hoping to be completed with the main NEPA essentially in about 1.5 years. With that still, though, we are able to construct certain portions of the project without NEPA that don't have the federal nexus or we're not going to use federal funds on.
Okay, those are my main questions right now. Thank you.
Further questions?
So maybe this is a question, maybe it's several comments. One, I just want to congratulate Mr. Renstrom and the entire district on really being the leaders in the state on conservation and trying to stretch water. It's been really impressive to watch, and it's something that has been, I know, very, very, very hard. So that's awesome. Two, I love this project because I do think it's in that same vein of stretching water resources, and I think that's pretty cool to see, and it's fun to entertain it. Three, and this is where it gets to the comment, maybe a question follow-up. I think that we as a board are only authorized to follow the statutes and the rules that we have, and not the ones we wish we would have. And in looking at the proposal that you made today, I'm a little worried that there would be several of those things that are kind of beyond. Maybe they are in what the lawyers like to call the penumbra of the idea of the authorization, but I don't see it in the plain language of the statute, and that worries me some. And I'm curious on just the response then. If we were to do what we can do is I read the statute and not go with the revolving loan and not go with 50 years, but say do it a lower interest rate for 40 years, is that within the realm of something that you would find you could work?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, go ahead. No, anything would be helpful, to be honest with you. Like, if you want to give me a buck right now, I'll take it type situation. Because these reuse programs, generally when you look at them, they're out of major metropolis. Like, you know, you're talking Los Angeles, San Diego, because they're so expensive and they can afford it. And so for a small community like ours to take on this type of a project is extremely difficult. And so, yeah, we'll take anything that the board feels comfortable with.
Okay, thanks.
Tom, do you have any information on what type of impacts a longer period of time or lower interest rate, what it might do for economic feasibility, any information like that?
Yes, we calculated the repayments at 0.5% interest over various years. So 40-year repayment at 0.5% would be $5,540,000 payment.
That's about $2 million less than what I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, that's right.
It was
Not quite.
7,844,000 before. So, and that would drop the cost per connection down to $6 or $6.60 just for our repayment, which would drop the overall affordability guideline amount down to $76.92. So that's still
over
$17 over what our board's affordability guideline states. So.
Okay. Yes, Board Member Steve.
And is that extending it to the 40 years, or what if you extended it plus the lower interest rate? Have we done that math?
Yet the lower interest rate, the 0.5% for 40 years, that's what that is. So.
We have the phone a friend option here, apparently.
So, I didn't know if I need to buy ice cream or what. Okay, do we have any other questions pertaining to this and the discussion on the presentations from either staff or from the applicant? I will provide just a commentary here as I understand it, that the authorization of this project, if we do so, as the board does so, there is room before committal of funds for adjustments of certain elements of whatever is approved. It might be time, it might be how payments are made or other things. And since we don't know some of the information, that we can't really say what that may be. But there is room for that. I would like to also add that there were no public comments submitted online for this project. So just so it's on the public record that is the case. So having said all of that, Board Member Van Horn, did you have a question, comment?
I have a small comment. I know that we still have an opportunity to change this at a later time and all that. However, I have concerns about the desire from the Conservancy District to, in so many few words, allocate that money only to themselves. This project is going to take more than a generation or two to complete, and I am uncomfortable holding the public's money that was generated throughout the state for one specific county. I feel like if the legislature intends that it should be completely stated clearly that it is specific for this project. There is no reason over the next 40 or 50 years that another county can't adopt the same things that Washington County did and comply with the statute as it's written and be able to take advantage of these funds for conservation and reuse projects, or a pipeline for that matter. So I just wanted to state that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, Chair will entertain. Oh,
I think this been.
I was just going to say a couple of things for the record. One is that I have a single-family home down in this service area, so I am impacted, I guess, in a small way with this, just for the record. But I echo with what's been said in the past, that between what the Water Conservancy District has done through the years, I don't know of another organization that has stretched the water drops any further than what they have, and I'm very in support of the project. I think that they've been very good stewards with the money that they have received from the various different agencies, and I think that they would be very good stewards with what the money that we would do if we move forward with this. And so with that being said, I'd like to make a motion that the board authorize 47.2% of Phase 1 project costs. And I'm just going to interject. In fact, I'm going to rescind what I just said. But as far as the revolving side of things, I think that we can look at that, discuss that a little bit further between here and then the final approval. And that's just something, just like what Board Member Steed had said, it's something brand new, not sure statutorily if that's something that we can move forward with or not. But with the information that we do have, I'll go ahead and restate my motion. So the board authorized 47.2% of Phase 1 project costs up to $195 million, and that the bonded indebtedness be returned at 0.5% interest over 40 years, with annual payments of approximately what was stated by our staff, Tom Cox, for
$5,540,000.
And that's my motion.
Chair, I'll second.
okay, we have a motion and a second. I believe we'll have a roll call vote. If I could get the director to please perform that.
Great. Board Member Tennert?
Aye.
Board Member Jones?
Aye.
Board Member Steed?
Aye.
Board Member Van Horn?
Aye.
Board Member Ibsen?
Aye.
Voting is unanimous. It passes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's a great project.
We're excited.
Doing well. Thank you.
You're always invited down there for a glass of water. Oh, that's right. We're here again.
You're the show today, so you got to stay.
We want to make your drive worth it.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, the next item, a special item RC 070, Washington County Water Conservancy District, Kolob Dam. Tom, if you would please present.
Washington County Water Conservancy District owns and operates Kolob Creek Dam, which is rated high hazard by the Division of Water Rights based on its location and the possibility of death and property damage if in case it fails. The dam was built in 1956 and is approximately 686 feet long, 61 feet high, and stores about 5,586 acre feet. The dam does not meet current state minimum safety standards, and the deficiencies include issues with the spillway and the outlet works, as well as seepage and stability issues with the dam embankment. In April of 2024, sinkholes were found around the spillway. It was discovered that the spillway structure had been uplifted and damaged. As a temporary fix, grout was placed under the voids, in the voids underneath the spillway. An agreement was made between the applicant and the Division of Water Rights Dam Safety Office to allow the reservoir to operate during that and this season, and that the spillway would need to be replaced in the year 2025. So that's the proposal today for the project, is to have the board commit funds for the completion of the spillway replacement, knowing that further improvements in the dam will need to be taken care of to bring it entirely up to meet minimum standards. So it's estimated the project cost is $1.5 million, and that staff recommends the board commit 80% of the project cost, up to $1,200,000 as a dam safety grant. And that's staff's report.
Thank you. Any questions for Tom? Presentation from staff. Sorry.
I have a question, Chairman.
Yes, go ahead.
Is the amount that's listed in the splitting up of the funding, is it in line with what dam safety has recommended? Or did they recommend one big thing and we split it up?
The pertinent issue is to take care of the spillway, and so the dam safety funds have other obligations now, and so we have enough to take care of the spillway now, and as soon as funds become available and the dam comes to the top of the state engineers priority list, the other issues will be taken care of. So yes, in a perfect world, we would have done, it's more cost effective to do everything at once, but the most urgent need is just to do the spillway, and when funds are available, we'll do the rest.
So it's something changed to, like, is the spillway issue imminent and moved it up the list quickly from them, or is this something that's been in the works for a while?
It's that emergency situation that, and with the agreement with the state dam safety that their spillway needs to be replaced this year. I don't think there would be enough time to do all the investigation, design, and for the entire project this year.
Thank you.
Any further questions, comments?
Chair, I just want to say, impressed at how well I've been to this site several times ever since a little boy, and surprised at how well it has held up. It's 70 years old. It's a long time for a dam, especially the technology that they had then. So I do think it's well timed to see that take place. So
I will say 70 doesn't seem that long anymore. Applicant, would you like to present anything to us?
The only thing I'd like to share on this is when these concerns came up, dam safety was amazing. And so when it came up, we immediately reached out to them, and the response time kind of blew us away, how fast they were there and helpful, and getting kind of things immediately taken care of. It was in the winter, but they were really good. And so that was one thing. And just through this whole process, once again, they've been excellent.
Thank you very much. I will state again for the public record, there were no public comments submitted online. So we would now entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion that the board commit 80% of the project cost up to $1,200,000 as a dam safety grant.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Let's just do this one. All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Voting is unanimous. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Can I just make one comment? And I'm not going to talk specifically about a specific agenda item because I know we're past these two agenda items. So I'm just going to kind of say this generally, that that my intent with the motions that I've made do not set any precedents for how future projects would be approved, because WIRA is very earmarked and specific for certain funding, and I just wanted that on the record. So,
Thank you. I think that same feeling is felt with other board members, so thank you very much. I will just mention that we do have a couple of new applications. There will not be any discussion or presentation. One for Veyo Irrigation Company in Washington County, one for Lake Creek Irrigation Company in Wasatch County. Those will come in future time. Okay, I think it's time that we will have a presentation on our WATERWISE plant selector app. Candace is online, right?
Candace Schaible, yes.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. Let me get my screen shared here.
Perfect.
Okay. Are you guys seeing that okay?
Yes.
All right. Perfect. And you can hear me okay?
Yes.
Beautiful. All right. Thanks again for having me. Today I'm going to give just a quick overview of the statewide WaterWise plant list, which is a really cool tool developed by David Gunther, Heidi King, and myself to support conservation efforts across the state by helping people choose water efficient plants and better understand the water needs of the plants they already have or are planning to install in their landscape. So we already have a lot of great plant lists available through various organizations across the state, but none of them are a comprehensive statewide list. And very few of them are interactive or allow for filtering by, oh, I had a fun video that I wanted to play while we were going. What's going on? Oh, that's a bummer. All right. Here's what we're gonna do. We're just gonna start over. Got it. Okay, share the screen again. Okay, perfect. Hopefully that is playing now. Okay, so we do have a lot of great plant lists available across the state, but none of them are comprehensive as a statewide list, and few are interactive or allow for filtering based on user-specific needs. So Heidi and I had a lot of fun and spent a lot of time collecting every plant list we could from across the state and then merging them all into one comprehensive list. And the result is this really awesome dynamic filterable tool with 847 different plant species and plant genre and species. And then a user can filter by their USDA plant hardiness zone, the plant type that they prefer or desire, water use requirements. And the goal is just to make plant selection a little easier and hopefully a little more intentional. So to keep the list simple, we intentionally excluded specific plant varieties. However, we are planning to note suggestive varieties within each plant description. So that is coming soon. In addition to listing suggestive varieties, you can click on the plant photo thumbnail, and if we know the variety of the plant we took a photo of, we do list that there so you can see all the different potential varieties you could purchase within that specific genus and species. So my favorite feature is that each plant is given a water use classification. And these classifications tell you how much water this plant needs in comparison to a cool season lawn. So this is really good information to have from a water management standpoint. It's really helpful for people that are designing their landscape as well as designing their irrigation systems. A great example of this are folks that are participating in the statewide landscape incentive program, which incentivizes property owners to replace their lawn with water efficient plants. But those water efficient plants have a very different water requirement than the lawn does. So there is some extra effort involved in managing those property types. So ideally, when a landscape is designed, plants are grouped into hydrozones, which are areas within a landscape where plants with similar water needs are grouped together and then watered the same. So instead of all of the plants in your landscape being watered at the same time with the same amount of water, hydrozoning allows you to match irrigation to the actual water need of the plant. And this is really important because it reduces waste, which supports long-term conservation efforts and goals, and it also improves plant health. Believe it or not, overwatering is the #1 killer of plants in the landscape. So if you click on the plant's water use classification, it leads you to our landscape water management tool, which is my favorite part. This helps people estimate the water needs of the plants in their landscape, and it's based on historic weather data, as well as plant type and a few other factors. So a user can select their location and then enter in other site and plant specifics. And then behind the scenes, the system's creating an irrigation schedule for them. And that schedule is based on the inputs that they provide. So we did add some descriptors just here in the center. So if someone doesn't know what their soil type is or how to determine what their soil type is, we have some information and resources for them so they can figure that out. So just based on the inputs that I provided, if I had, and this is just to give you an example, if I had a small shrub that's established, meaning it's been in the ground for a few years, and it has an established root system, and it's a moderate water use classification, based on historic data, I could probably expect to apply roughly 13 to 14 gallons of water per month to that plant in the heat of the summer, if I'm located in Moab. Moab was the location I selected for this example. So based on my soil type and the root system of the plant that I selected, so how deep shrub roots typically go, the system's recommending that I break that irrigation up into 2 to 3 irrigations per month. And then it'll also provide recommendations on how much to apply with each irrigation. It doesn't give you a runtime because everyone's system is so different. It's hard to know what size emitters people have. And so providing runtime's not an option at this point, but we do provide the gallons. So hopefully folks know how many, the size emitter that each of their plants have within their landscape. And then again, all of this is just based on soil type and the rooting depth of the plant that was selected. And if people take nothing else away from this tool, I really hope that they see that the plant water need changes with the season. The water need of the plant is in May is not the same as the water need of the plant in June or July, or even October. We're in the process of adding photos. That's currently our main priority. Of, I think, 840, I think we've got almost 150 pictures. There's a lot of plants. It's a big project, but it's been a lot of fun. Once we get that done, we'd like to add some additional filters like plant size, bloom time, whether it's deer resistant. That's always a common question. We'd also like to create a comments from the expert section that would include some maintenance tips and some growing advice. Another idea that we're kind of chewing on or throwing around is identifying plants that would be suitable for high density housing landscapes where space might be limited, but there would be a desire for some privacy or compact plants. We're really excited to offer this tool as a resource for conservation programs and landscape professionals and homeowners across the state. And I'd be more than happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions for Candace? I actually have one. Where do you go to find this app?
Oh, great question. So let me go back a bit. If you've got your phone handy, you can scan that QR code and it'll take you right to it. The website's on the top of that page. Another option, if you just Google WATERWISE plants, it's like the second or third thing that comes up in a Google search.
Mr. Chair, it's okay. Candace, where on the app? I'm so into this. Thank you very much. I'm like probably more excited about it than the great deliberation that we just had on a really great project down south. But this is pretty good. Where do we go to get to that the management piece That's a really useful piece.
Yeah, so if you click here, this on
Oh,
the water use
gotcha.
classification,
Okay, perfect.
it'll take you to, it'll allow you to copy a Google sheet, and then you'll just have that in your Google Docs, in your Google files.
That's awesome. Thank
And
you.
it's yours, so any inputs you make, that's not going to impact anybody else.
That is so cool. Thank you.
Candace,
Yeah, you bet.
is it possible that you could share your, I assume that's a PowerPoint that you're sharing with us here now? If you could maybe share that with all of us. Is that possible?
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, Candace, I would just add that I am compiling an email right now of all sorts of stuff to send to you guys. So if you want to send me your presentation, I will include that in the email.
Thank you.
Awesome.
I just think this is awesome because I'm speaking for myself. I'm just not smart enough to know all of this type of information, and to be able to access it and very clearly explain low water, medium water zones and so forth. Those are fairly easy concepts. Thank you. This is just a great idea. I hope this is widely used.
Oh, that's great to hear. Thank you for that. Dana's got her hand raised.
Dana, go ahead.
Hi, Candace. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I echo what Board Member Tenner and Davis said. This is really cool. I happen to live in Moab, and I emailed you the other day, by the way, about our landscape ordinance. So here we are in person-ish. Anyway, it being rural and in a place where getting plants isn't all that easy, and we can have people order them for us, being able to go online and have something that's specific to our state. Sometimes those zones don't take into account all of the things. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's really neat for us to have something, especially to use with our existing landscape. And if we have plants that don't make it or whatever, and we're trying to find something that fits in with what we've already got, it's super helpful. And congratulations on a really nice product.
Oh, thank you for that. I really appreciate it. I'm excited to talk more about your ordinance as well. Reach out and we'll chat.
Okay, I think
That sounds good.
covers everything there. And now to one of my favorite parts, the director's report.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Members of the board, this week I had an opportunity to serve as a witness at a congressional hearing for the House Natural Resource, Water, Wildlife, and Fisheries Subcommittee, which was the first time I've ever done that. So that was pretty exciting and intimidating, all of those type of feelings. The item which I spoke on is there's currently a reauthorization bill before the House. It's HR 3857, the Snow Water Supply Forecasting Reauthorization Act of 2025. But this is really trying to get additional funds and reauthorization for the Bureau's program on really their snow water supply forecasting grants that they've had available. If you remember at our last board meeting, Scott McGettigan presented on the Wings Over Weber ASO project, Airborne Snow Observatory, and we leveraged this grant for that project, as well as another project in the Colorado River Basin that we did in conjunction with the Colorado River Authority in central Utah. So it was a cool opportunity, and I think it went pretty well and had some good questions. Also this week, right now, I think they're probably just about wrapping up. The Upper Colorado River Commission is having their their summer meeting here. It was up at the Capitol today. And generally the Upper Basin states have been working diligently to stay within the Bureau of Reclamation's schedule, really trying to come to some agreement and consensus on the post-2026 guidelines. And it is, as you guys can imagine, has been a challenge. They have recently offered some new concepts and operational framework, and this is really trying to shift from a demand-driven system to a supply-driven system. So looking at the potential of using natural flow, so that includes the unregulated inflow coming into Lake Powell, as well as the demands, the consumptive use demands in the upper basin states added together, what that would be if it would all make it to Lake Powell. The states mostly are in agreement that using an average of 3 years of natural inflow is a good amount, and then bounded by this kind of release period of, or this 4.7 million acre feet and 12 million acre feet potential release pattern, depending on what the average natural inflow is for that 3 years. There is still a lot of questions about what is the right percent of natural flow to be tied to those release patterns, and I think that's where the 7 basin states are spending most of their time right now. So that's kind of one big piece. Another item of note is President Trump has nominated Ted Cook to be the commissioner of the Bureau of Reclamation. Ted Cook's former job or previous employment was as the general manager of the Central Arizona Project. So we will look forward to seeing how that goes through the different committees and things as that moves forward. Last week, it feels like a lot longer away than just last week. We had interim up at the Capitol, and I was able to provide 2 presentations, one on water supply and one on tiered rates. And then in addition, this week, and as a reminder, April 24th of this year, the governor declared a drought declaration for the southern part of our state, 17 counties. Because of some of the laws that were passed during COVID, that executive order only had a 30-day window, so it has expired. The Drought Response Committee met yesterday and reviewed the drought conditions, and surprisingly, and I guess it's definitely a good thing, because of the wet spring that the southern part of the states has, there's actually been improvements in some of the drought conditions, and so we did not recommend a new declaration at this point. We did set a new meeting or another meeting in August to make sure drought conditions are still it's not getting worse. I would note that we did see a decline in water supply conditions and an increase in drought conditions in the northern part of the state. So there's that. And speaking of drought, and this is one of the things I have in my email I'm going to get ready to ship off to you guys. Last night I was forwarded an article that Crystal Ross in our division helped write with a number of other people, but is a really great article on drought and water, and more broadly than just water, talking about wildlife and energy and all the connections. It was a really great article, and she worked really hard to get input from everybody and all of our sister divisions and the impacts that drought has on them, so including wildfire and ag and all of these type of things. So just a really great article that I'll ship over to you guys. And then a couple other items on conservation. We just saw the great plant list that Candace and Heidi have been working on. There's also a lot of effort on landscape incentives and rebates. Richmond City is the latest city to adopt the water efficiency standards and including those in their ordinances, and is now eligible for landscape incentives. So that gets us to 73 locations that are now eligible. There's also, Candace has done a really great job of creating new webinars regarding WATERWISE landscaping. And so she just completed one last week that I'll also send over to you guys, a recorded webinar on WATERWISE landscapes, which was really good, and I hadn't heard the stats, but I'm assuming it had a really good turnout. Water conservation plans are coming in, and it's about to get really busy. About 39 systems have their plans due this year, and the drafts are due by July 15th for our kind of initial review. Then we send feedback back to the entities, and then hopefully they get them corrected and get them publicly, or get them in front of a public meeting and get them adopted. There's also a number of outreach events, one in Cedar City Water Festival on June 28th, and Candace will have a booth there. And then we're also having one of our staff, Blue, is helping to host the booth at Crash Lake City on August 10th at the Utah State Fair Park. So just a way to get out there and help spread the conservation message. And then with the state water plan, we've had an initial outreach to watershed councils, and that's almost complete. We have an additional meeting with the Sevier River Watershed Council next week. I think that's kind of our last watershed council. Then we'll also be doing public scoping meetings in each watershed this summer. And if you want to be involved in areas in these meetings in your area, let us know, and we can reach out to Stephanie McGinnis and make sure you guys are informed of when those are happening. And then we're also meeting with agency partners to discuss different writing assignments. One of the big changes in this plan is really trying to cover all of the water topics. Historically, we definitely had a bigger focus on water resources topics, but including to a higher level water quality and those type of things in our efforts for our state water plan. So working closely with our sister agencies. And then the goal of to have a draft ready for partner review and you guys as well in January. So it's a robust timeline and lots of efforts that are going to go into it over the next 6 months. So that's what I have for you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Director Hassenyeager. Appreciate all of your work and your staff's work. To a remarkable organization and benefit to the state of Utah. Thank you. Any further business? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I will so move.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.